So I'm going to proclaim it that after the Atlanta Braves beat the Philadelphia Phillies, and obviously one of the games got rained out, so they swept the New York Mets. They took 2 games from Philadelphia. Now, when you look at the MLB standings, the Braves are 6 games up on the Miami Marlins, 10 games up now on the Philadelphia Phillies, 14 games up on the Mutts, and we don't even count the Nationals as a Major League Baseball team. I'll go ahead and say it. The NL East is over. And I'm not trying to be Sal Licata, hot take guy, and go on TV and proclaim all this kind of stuff. But when you look at this Braves team, and not just that they're playing so well in the month of June, which we talked about in the month of June, that they have a last place schedule. They play a lot of last place teams, other than the Phillies and the Mets. And if you take care of your business against them, there's all kinds of room to expand. We've been over all this, right? But the NL East is over. When you look at this Phillies team and the New York Mets, there's nothing about those teams that inspire you to say that they're going to go on a 20-game win streak or what have you. I'll tell you what's going to be interesting is the series that's going to start today with the Cincinnati Reds, whereas the Reds won their 11th game in a row, and they are I think their franchise record is 12 games. This is a pretty hefty matchup when you look at Braves and Reds. Braves have won 8 in a row. Reds have won 11 in a row, trying to tie their franchise record, but we'll get to that, another time. But the NL East is over. And when you look at this division, look at the Braves with a plus 106 run differential. Look at the rest of the division. The Marlins are a minus 16, and they're hanging tough. They're 10 games over 500. I give them credit. 10 games over 500. They're a minus 16 run differential. The Phillies are a minus 19 run differential. The Mets are a minus 15 run differential, and then the Washington Nationals are a minus 61. None of those teams are going to go off on any kind of hot streak. And not only that, but one of the things that the Braves have done so well is when the Mets and Phillies go head-to-head with the Atlanta Braves, the Braves take those series. And that was the difference last year, and that's been the difference over the last few years as to why the Braves have had success. Now, again, remember, we're not playing these 19 games anymore as far as your division goes, so there are a few less division games, but I'll say it, that the NL East is over. And I don't see a reason. And think about the remarkable nature of the Braves, where you've lost your starting shortstop, from last year in Dansby Swanson, kind of one of the cornerstones of this team. You've had all the injuries to pitchers. Ian Anderson out for the year. Wright and Fried are on 60-day ILs. Michael Soroka still kind of work his way into the rotation or get himself back up to full strength and become a viable piece. And through all of this, you didn't have Iglesias to start the year. Through all of this, the Braves have had a remarkable run, and their offense has been outstanding. It's the deepest lineup in baseball, and their pitching staff, when you look at Strider and Morton and Elder, like, they've gotten quality starting pitching. Look, Elder's had a fantastic year. He's 5-1 with a 2.4 ERA. Strider's got 8 wins already. He's got 136 strikeouts in 84 innings. I think in the modern era, it's only Dwight Gooden and Spencer Strider that have 300 career strikeouts in like 35 starts. It's just ridiculous. So when you look at this division, there's nothing that tells me that all of a sudden the Mets and Phillies are going to turn around the Titanic and find a way to rattle off a whole number of wins. And when this team, when the Braves match up directly head to head, that's where they make their most hay. This was an opportunity that if the Phillies or Mets were going to make a move in this division, then something had to start now. Something had to start where, okay, we only have a few games against the Atlanta Braves in this particular month of June, and they have a last place schedule, but we've got to make some hay against these guys, and they couldn't do it. And the Mets and Phillies went 0-5, with a rain out mixed in to all of this. Mets and Phillies had their chance, and went 0-5. And that's the biggest reason that I look and say that this division is over. Yeah, technically, we're only headed toward the All-Star break. And, right now the Braves have, only played less than half of their schedule thus far. But still, when you look at this thing, and the Braves are 48-26, so they have 74 games that they've played right now. When you look at this thing, though, there's nothing about any of those other teams that are in the division that tell you that, okay, they're about to go on some extended winning streak. And who knows? I mean, I still question whether or not, if the Phillies and Mets are sitting 12, 15 games out of first place, will those teams stay with what they have? Again, they've added all of this payroll, right? They've added all of this money to their payroll and all of these players and all this, that, and the other, and they're getting bupkis out of it. They're getting nothing for it. Will they stay with that, or will they start to move some pieces off on this roster? That will probably not come until the offseason, because, again, the way that they are building this thing hasn't worked at all. And all the money that they've doled out for the New York Mets hasn't paid off at all, as they sit 14 games out of the division. So I'll go ahead and say it. I'll go ahead and proclaim it, not to be hot take guy or anything like that. But when you realistically look and you look at what the facts of the matter are, the NL East is over. There's nothing about the Phillies and the Mets being 10 and 14 games back that tells you that all of a sudden, when the end of the year comes along, that the Braves are going to get overtaken, that they're going to, be beaten by the Mets and Phillies, that they're going to get overtaken in the standings, that the Miami Marlins, and when they play the Marlins, they'll do the same exact thing. Once they get into some head-to-head competition, they'll play the same exact way. The Marlins will fold like a cheap tent, and this thing will be over. And again, the nice part will be is that with all of the injuries and everything else, people can't complain about, well, the Braves were relatively healthy and all this kind of stuff. No, the Braves weren't relatively healthy. They are doing this without without what they thought was going to be, about 60% of their starting pitching right now, or at least 40% of their starting pitching. A guy that won 21 games last year and the best left-hander in baseball. They've been able to do it without. And then they've sprinkled in injuries all throughout the season. Arcia was hurt for 20-something games. Iglesias was their closer. He was hurt at the beginning of the season. They sprinkled all of this in amongst all of their injuries, and yet they've had a remarkable run. So I'll say it, and I think it's certainly true, is that the NL East is over. There's nothing about the Phillies and the Mutts that are going to overtake the Atlanta Braves.